For as long as most people have been buying cars, one name has meant safe: Toyota. The car that always starts, holds its value, never lets you down, and outsells everyone. Toyota has been the #1 car maker in the world for 6 years running, through a pandemic, through supply chain chaos, through the whole shift to electric. If any company on earth looked permanent, it was this one. That permanence just cracked, and it cracked in a way that points straight at China, because for the first time in 2 years, Toyota's global sales in the first half of the year actually fell. Not by a catastrophic amount, but they fell, and the biggest car maker on the planet going backwards at all is news. In this video, you will see exactly where those losses came from, why almost all of them trace back to a single country, which other giants are getting hit even harder, and what it means for you if the badge you always thought of as the safest bet is suddenly the one under pressure. Start with the headline number because it is the one nobody expected to see. In the first half of 2026, Toyota's global sales came to about 5.39 million vehicles, down 2.9% from the same period a year earlier. That is Toyota's first fall in first-half sales in 2 years. Production dropped too. For a company whose entire brand is built on relentless, reliable growth, going into reverse is a genuine shift, not a rounding error. It is worth being precise, because Toyota is not collapsing across the board. Its electrified cars actually kept selling, with hybrids still strong, and its small electric range growing fast off a low base. The problem is not that people stopped buying Toyotas everywhere. The problem is concentrated, and once you find where it lives, the whole picture snaps into focus. But the global number hides where the damage actually happened, because it did not happen in America, and it did not happen at home in Japan. Toyota held steady, even grew, in North America and Japan. Almost the entire decline came from one place: China. In the first half of the year, Toyota's sales in China fell 17%, a drop of around 143,000 cars in just 6 months compared with the year before. And in one brutal month earlier in the year, Toyota's China sales were down almost 32%, nearly a third gone in a single month. The market that was supposed to be one of Toyota's biggest engines of growth turned into the one dragging its global numbers down. And this is the part that turns a bad quarter into a real story, because Toyota is not alone, and it is not the worst hit. The other Japanese giants are getting hammered even harder in China. Honda's sales there were cut nearly in half in one recent month, down almost 49%. Nissan was down around 35%. Of the major Japanese brands operating in China, only one, Mazda, managed to grow at all. This is not one company having an off year. This is the entire Japanese car establishment losing ground in the world's largest car market at the same time, to the same competitor. When 3 rivals fall together in the same market at the same moment, it is not bad luck. It is the market itself changing shape underneath them. That competitor is the Chinese car industry led by BYD, and it is the same machine we have seen taking share at every level of the market. Cheaper, packed with technology, updated constantly, and improving faster than the Japanese product cycle can keep up with. Inside China, a brutal price war and a wave of homegrown brands has made the Japanese badge, once the default smart choice, look expensive and a little dated next to the local car. The customers Toyota and Honda thought they had locked in for life are walking into showrooms and driving out in a BYD. Think about what that means on the ground. A Chinese family that would have bought a Corolla or a Camry 10 years ago, almost on autopilot, now has a dozen homegrown options that cost less, carry bigger screens, drive themselves more of the time, and get software updates like a phone. The Toyota still runs forever, still holds together, still does everything it always did. But doing everything it always did is no longer enough, because the local cars are doing more, for less, and updating themselves while the Toyota stays the same. Reliability used to be the whole argument. Now it is one argument among several, and it is losing to features and price in the market that matters most. If you're getting value from this, hit subscribe. This channel breaks down the Chinese car shift every week, brand by brand, with real numbers and named models. There is a lot more of this story coming. Now let's talk about how confident the challenger has become, because this is not a quiet, accidental gain. The leader of the pack has said out loud what it is aiming at. BYD, China's biggest carmaker, has publicly stated its goal to surpass Toyota as the world's #1 carmaker by 2030. Read that again. A company that most Western drivers had never heard of a decade ago has openly declared that it intends to take the global crown from the most dominant carmaker on Earth. And it named a date. 10 years ago, that would have sounded delusional. Today, with Toyota's China sales dropping by a third in a month and BYD growing across the planet, it sounds less like a boast and more like a schedule. And the pressure is not only in China. The same Chinese brands are climbing sales charts in Europe, in Southeast Asia, in the Middle East, in South America, in Australia. Everywhere Toyota built its empire on being the reliable, affordable default, a Chinese brand is now arriving with a car that is cheaper, newer, and loaded with more technology. The single most valuable thing Toyota owns is the belief that it is the safe, smart, permanent choice. That belief is exactly what the Chinese industry is chipping away at, one market at a time. Now for the honest part, because the title says taking over, and if I skip the ceiling, this tips into hype, and you deserve the real scope. Toyota is still the #1 car maker in the world. That has not changed. Even with the first half drop, Toyota still outsold Volkswagen and Hyundai to keep the global crown for the 7th year in a row. A 2.9% decline is a real warning sign, but it is not a collapse, and it is nowhere near losing the top spot. So when you hear taking over, hold it to the honest scope. Chinese brands are taking Toyota's customers in China and pressuring it everywhere else. But Toyota still sells more cars worldwide than anyone. The story is not that China dethroned Toyota. The story is that, for once, the throne is not guaranteed, and the challenger has named the year it wants to take it. There is a second honest point worth stating. Some of Toyota's drop came from ordinary business reasons that have nothing to do with China, like a model changeover for its best-selling RAV4 SUV, and a rough patch in the Middle East, tied to regional disruption. So not every lost sale is a Chinese sale, but the single biggest piece of the decline, by far, is China. And China is where the structural threat lives. The RAV4 will get replaced and recover. The Chinese competition is not a temporary gap. It is the new normal. But even with those caveats, the direction is what should hold your attention. The industry's undisputed leader for the last decade just posted its first fall in 2 years, driven almost entirely by a market where local brands are taking its customers, while the biggest of those brands openly targets its crown. The badge that felt permanent is, at last, playing defense. Which brings it home to you, if you are the kind of buyer who always defaulted to Toyota, or you are now looking at one of the Chinese brands that is challenging it. What actually matters before you decide? If you are buying the Toyota, the case for it is still real. A long track record, a huge service network, and resale value that holds because everyone trusts it will. That trust is worth money, and it is exactly what the Chinese brands have not built yet. If you are looking at the Chinese challenger instead, the car itself is often the easy part, cheaper and better equipped than the Toyota it is aimed at. The hard part is the unknowns a newer badge brings. What is the warranty, and how long does it run? Where is the nearest dealer and parts supply? Because a cheap car stops being cheap the first time you wait weeks for a part. And the quiet one, resale value, because a brand with a short history in your country has no settled track record for what it is worth in 5 years, and that unknown is a real cost, hiding behind the low sticker price. Here is the honest way to frame the choice. The Toyota is the known quantity. You pay a bit more today and you buy certainty, a car that will almost certainly hold its value, and be easy to service for a decade. The Chinese challenger is the newer bet. You save real money up front, you get more car for it, and in exchange, you take on questions that only time can answer. Neither choice is wrong. What matters is that you price the certainty honestly, instead of only comparing the 2 stickers in the window. Those 3 checks, the warranty, the network, and the resale math, are the boring and expensive ones a new badge makes hard to do on your own. Let me say one thing and then get back to the cars. I put all of that into a set of field manuals over at Uzaver.com. One of them scores any brand out of 20 before you finance it, hands you the questions to ask in the showroom, and runs the depreciation subtraction before you sign. If you want it, it is there. That is all. Either way, run those 3 checks before you trade certainty for a lower price. So here is the shape of it. Toyota, the biggest car maker of the last decade, just went backwards for the first time in 2 years, and almost every lost sale traces to China, where its own customers are switching to homegrown brands. Honda and Nissan are being hit even harder, and the biggest Chinese car maker has openly named the year it wants to take Toyota's global crown. Toyota is still number 1 today, and that matters, but the one thing it could always count on, the sense that its lead was permanent, is exactly what it just lost. Now tell me from where you live. If you have always driven a Toyota, would you switch to a Chinese brand to save real money, or is the badge and the reliability worth paying more for? And which Chinese brands are already outselling Toyota where you are? Drop your country and your honest answer in the comments.